the crisis of the 1990s in Finland, it's called the Great Depression. It was the worst disaster since the Second World War. And the GDP dropped by almost 13% in 3 years in a row, and the unemployment went from 3% to more than 20%, quite rapidly. And the church reacted quite strongly, and especially diaconia work in the church. In Finland, the congregational diaconia is very strong because all the parishes must employ at least one diaconical worker, and that's stated in the church law. So during the crisis there were something like 1,200 diaconical workers spread around the whole country. And those diaconical workers, they have their background either in nursing or in social work. And during the years of the golden welfare state, they mainly were focusing on elderly. They were meeting elderly people at their homes. But when this crisis hit, there was a very deep change in the way they carried out their job, because they started to set up receptions at their offices, which were normally on the same premises next to the church, and they were focusing on working age people, those people who were most severely hit by the depression.
And when they opened up areas for people to come, was there need for that? I mean, did people seek help to the church?
Yes, but that's something which happened. It didn't happen immediately. Of course, there were those people who lost their jobs, and then they felt this financial insecurity. But most of them, they had earnings-related benefits. They were entitled to earnings-related benefits. That means that their incomes didn't drop dramatically. But then there were those people who were not able to enter the labor market after they completed their studies or after their kids had grown up. And then there were also those people who were totally excluded from the labor market. But that happened maybe 1 or 2 years after the crisis hit. Mm-hmm. And those people who came to see the diaconical workers, they were in spiritual need, but also in financial need.
And did the church respond to that?
Yes, the church started to grant small size aid. I mean, just they were not giving out money, but they were giving coupons which you were able to use to buy food, and they were also delivering food bags. Sometimes they were paying bills like rent or medical bills.
Mm-hmm. Was this done by the congregations individually, or was it coordinated somehow by the Finn Church Aid?
It was not coordinated. The church is quite a peculiar organization because all the congregations are autonomous, so they can pretty much decide how they want to carry out their job. I mean, there is some things are stated in the church law, but when it comes to, for example, diaconia, mostly it states that there must be one diaconical worker, and the mission of diaconia work is to seek those who are not helped by anybody else and who are in the gravest need, and it's left for the workers to interpret or to decide themselves who are in the gravest need.
Mm-hmm. Now there are we're experiencing a global financial crisis, and that must be affecting Finland as well. Do you know how the Finnish church is preparing for that?
Well, we have had carried out seminars, and also some advice is given by the church council for congregations. But I think the church is much better prepared this time than it was in the early 1990s, because it happened to us already then.
What would you describe as the major learnings from the period of 1990s for the church, both of what to do and how to be prepared, and also what not to do?
Well, I guess the biggest learning is that you have to respond to people's needs, and you must attend to their needs and to their situations. And what's also important is that what the church says and preaches is corresponds to what it actually does in practice. And I must emphasize that also the church was taking stand with those people who were hit by the depression. They were giving public statements and they were organizing seminars, arranging groups and that sort of thing. And on some instances the bishops also raised their voice to speak for those people who had financial difficulties. Mm-hmm. And that well, there are also some very positive outcomes which you can look into. For example, there is a World Values Survey where people are asked which sort of institutions you trust, and that measure was much lower for our church before the recession than after the recession. And also during the recession, the number of those people who left the church decreased. And actually, in the early 90s, there was a very strange moment in a way that there were more people joining the church than leaving the church, because overall the church membership has been going down. But on one instance in the early 90s, there were more people joining the church than leaving the church.